Hey everybody, my name is Lon Stroshine, former public company executive turned best-selling author, coach to elite performers, and self-declared lifestyle engineer. In 2022, I made a decision that changed everything for me. I left my job as a public company executive, and I left without a backup plan, without a resume, and without a Rolodex of clients. I left with a belief that the best days of my life were right in front of me, and that they weren't going to be lived where I was standing. Since that day, my mission has become to be a champion for the best decade of your life. This podcast is here to give you the tools, the stories, and the perspective you're going to need to finally make a bet on you. We're going to talk about the hard stuff here. The conversations here will be raw and real. There are no post-edits, no do-overs, and no limits. You'll hear stories from people just like you who've made the trade, and from those who are right there in the trenches, right where you are, still trying to figure out. If you're here, you're ready to be up to something. And if you're here, you're one decision away from a radically different life. Welcome to the Normal 40. I'm going to see all of you on the podcast. So we're doing a podcast, dude.
Let's do it.
All right. But here's what you need to know about my podcast. This right here might be part of it. So be careful what you say from this point going forward.
I'll be careful.
You've been warned. All right, man. Here's where I want to start. I start most of my podcasts right here. Tell me what you were doing in third grade.
In third grade, I probably would have been just living the life in the country of northwestern New Jersey, probably playing some sort of sport, soccer, football, basketball, whatever, baseball, whatever I was doing at the time, probably riding my bike out in the very rural area in New Jersey I lived, and hanging out with my friends and sisters and just living the best life, I suspect.
How was life for you in the third grade? Was it normal? Did you have some challenges? Did you fit in? Were your parents going through stuff? What was just going on?
Yeah, I think it was pretty normal childhood. I had at the time, I would have had an older sister who was 2 years older than me, and a younger sister who was 2 years younger than me. My mother was a sort of a stay-at-home mom. My father worked all the time, didn't really see him much because of that. We didn't have a lot of money, but we were together. I remember just doing lots of great stuff with my extended family in the Philadelphia area, and just spending a lot of time down there with relatives and family members, and we were pretty connected. But yeah, I mean, no real significant traumas or events or anything that was life-changing at that stage in my life.
At what point, so spoiler alert for the listener, Chris becomes a medical doctor. At what point in your life, where were you in your journey, the first time it dawned on you that, maybe this is something I should think about doing? How old were you?
Yeah, so just to clarify, I have a doctorate degree, not a medical doctor, but a PA with my doctorate degree. I would say when you talk about sort of like what life-changing, sort of when I knew I wanted to get into medicine was really when my sister, unfortunately, was diagnosed with cancer, Hodgkin's lymphoma, when she was 13. So I would have been 11 at the time, and ultra close with my sister. And that was life-changing for me. The impact of going into New York City, Memorial Sloan Kettering, New York, and just they were all oftentimes they were family events where we would all trek into the city together. We would go to the point my mother would take us all to appointments together, and so just going through that, I just knew that medicine had to be a part of my life in the future.
And so, at what point? So you were. Give me an age, just ballpark for me. How old were you when you said, "Okay, this is something for me. I got to explore this"?
Would have been around 11 years old when that occurred.
All right. So you decide you're going to go into healthcare, and tell me about where'd you go to college and what was your college experience like?
Yeah. So that was an interesting process. I was getting recruited to play college football at the time. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to do it or not. I was getting looked at by a couple of Division I schools, getting looked at by some Division III schools. Hadn't done the best academically as I wanted to in high school, and so I was sort of pursuing schools that were based upon that really had strong pre-med programs. Ultimately found myself at Muhlenberg College in Pennsylvania, really great small liberal arts school, really focused on medical education. I was able to play some college football there.
What position did you play?
So I played running back. I was getting recruited to play defensive back by a couple Division I schools, running back by a couple Division I schools, but ultimately found myself playing running back at Muhlenberg.
Were you good?
Um, I was, I would say I was good until I made a decision to pledge a fraternity my sophomore year at the same time that I was playing football and pre-med. So that was
Dun,
not a
dun,
good decision.
dun. The fraternity.
Yeah,
You look back, you can see these forks in the road, right? These trades. There was a trade.
it was a trade. It was,
There went the scholarship. There went the health of your liver, the good decision-making matrix that you'd had up to that point, but a heck of a lot of fun.
it was a heck of, I have, man, the memories that you have and what you could do in fraternities then versus what you can do now are a big difference. As I have a son who's a junior in college who's living in a fraternity house right now, and much different than when I lived in a fraternity house.
Well, the biggest difference is that it can be broadcast live around the world
Right.
in a split second. If that weren't the case, I suspect it might not be as different as it was in our youth.
Right. Totally agree. It was.
But we better be careful not to talk too much more about this, or you and I could let this spiral way out of control. And I might have some questions to answer of others later. So let's just say that there's this period in your life where doing things that you would never do again is the time and place to do it. And we probably both checked a lot of those boxes.
We certainly did.
Right,
I did.
So I do want to go back though. So sophomore year, you literally made a trade. I mean, you probably didn't know it at the time. It just seemed like a simple decision you made in an afternoon over a conversation with somebody you probably admire, that you're going to move into this place. But it has this ripple. It kind of ripples through what is maybe the rest of your life. I mean, I don't want to overstate it, but kind of hanging up the cleats to go down a different path probably altered, at least to a certain extent, the direction of your life. So at this point, though, you're in college. You've given up. You've made a decision to move in with some friends. You've given up. My word's not yours, so correct me. But you've kind of stepped away from football, and now you're going all in on healthcare. And kind of lead us through graduation and your first job into healthcare. And what were you learning? I mean, were you positive? Did you remain convinced that you wanted to stay on this course? And when does this discovery to continue your education come in?
Yeah. So I finished off my sophomore year playing football. I prepared to play football my junior year. I started playing, got hurt, and then made that decision to convert from being the football player to actually the medical coverage for the football team, and the basketball team. So you're right. It absolutely was a turning point for me, because I decided, hey, like, I'm not going to be playing football the rest of my life. I need to think about what's next. And so that's what I did. And so I really focused on initiating that process, getting some patient care contact hours, started working as a personal trainer, started doing some volunteer hours, and really figured out eventually that I wanted to go to PA school my senior year, and applied and got in March of my senior year. I was actually going to work at Memorial Sloan Kettering, where my sister received cancer treatment in New York City, but decided to pivot and just go right to PA school at that time. So moved to Boston right after I graduated, about 5 days later, and I've been here ever since.
Let me just ask this. What's your sister's name?
The one that had cancer?
Yeah.
Kim.
Kim. How old were you when Kim was diagnosed?
11.
Okay. So this was already part of your life at this point when you were making these decisions. Can I ask, did Kim survive her cancer?
Kim not only survived her cancer, but she's kicked cancer's ass for 3 more times. She got thyroid cancer, and she got 2 melanomas, and she's had a couple of strokes from some other medical issues she had, and she's still kicking ass and working hard, and she's living a good life, and I admire the heck out of her.
I kind of want to meet Kim.
Yeah, she's as badass as they come.
I love it, dude. Okay. I want to bounce back. I'm going to bounce around, dude. This is how I do it. But
Okay.
I want to go to this point in life when you've handed in your cleats, but you're on the sidelines and you're operating as a medic. Give me a moment when you knew, like, this is where I belong. Just give me a story of somebody you helped, a relationship you built, just anything that reinforced for you. Okay, this is where I belong.
Yeah, I think like just like I just had such passion and desire to help others. Like just if someone would get hurt on the field, that'd be my first thought. Like, how can I help them? How can I stabilize them? How can I utilize my medical knowledge? And so like, it was just that constant reward when I would take care of my peers, my colleagues, my fellow football players, my fellow athletes, my fellow fraternity brothers at these sports events. And so I just knew that was within my DNA. So all throughout college, is something I really, really enjoyed. Even in graduate school, while I was studying for those 3 years in Boston, I was personal training at that time as well. And I enjoyed the health and wellness part of it. I continue to be a huge endurance athlete and very much into health and nutrition. And so I enjoyed that aspect. So I just always knew it was part of me and what I wanted to do. And so yeah, I just say each of those experiences, helping personal train people and during that time in college football and college basketball, taking care of those athletes.
Great. Two more questions. How devastated were you when you got injured and you realized that maybe you're not going to see the field again?
Yeah, I was probably more devastated 15 to 20 years later when I realized, as I'm telling my kids about the camaraderie and the fun that you had. I don't think at the time, like, it's just always been my life that I've just been so laser focused and so, hardworking. And I always like to put thoughts into action. And I don't think I realized how much value it brought to me as I was, my son and I were looking at colleges for him. And I was he was getting recruited for lacrosse. And I just said, you're going to miss these times, dude. You're going to miss this camaraderie, this locker room, togetherness, the bus rides, the plane, whatever it is. You're going to miss this. You should take advantage of it because the connections that you make for the rest of your life, the networking opportunities, it's just incredible. It's not about the sport. It's about the people. It's about the networking that you do. And I've emphasized that to all of my kids because that's actually, I actually don't feel like I missed the actual playing of the game as much as I missed being around the people in that sort of atmosphere.
We're coming back to that. It's not the sport, it's the people. I love that. But I said I had two questions. And the other one was being on the sidelines, and I want to talk specifically football, being on the sidelines of football as a medic and as a former player. How did that uniquely position you to be even more helpful?
Yeah, I mean, I brought a perspective that just wasn't on the medical staff. I could relate to the player. I can relate to when they would want to get back on the field or what they were experiencing. It was a perspective that just no one on the medical staff could offer. And so I thought it was very unique, and I had personal relationships with these people. Even the basketball team, most of the basketball team was my fraternity brothers. And so I just had unique relationships with them that really helped me.
All right, dude. So let's fast forward. Let's get into your career 5, 6, 7 years. Where you at? What are you doing? What are you loving?
Yeah, so started out my career in orthopedic surgery as which would be the right fit based on what I just told you. But I very quickly realized that acute care medicine really was really where I wanted to be. So moving into the 5 to 7 years, I started moving into emergency medicine, urgent care medicine, sprinkling with outpatient medicine as well. And so I was wearing about three different hats 5 to 7 years into my career, working in three different spaces, and just was always constantly, trying to improve myself. Everywhere I was, everyone always said, man, you're so busy. And I just said, I want to be the best PA I can possibly be, gain as much knowledge as I possibly can have. So I got into leadership pretty early on, both on the inpatient, outpatient sector, and just knew I enjoyed leading people and enjoyed, I was a huge person who loved organization. I was always the person that said, hey, we need to do this. We need to do it better. I was very into operations, very into efficiency, very into, how we can best serve patients, and just didn't always agree with the way that the care was being delivered. So I found myself raising my hand and getting involved pretty early in my career.
So you're in acute medicine. What age are you?
So I came out of school pretty young as a PA. I was 25 years old, working, and but 5 to 7 years of my career, I would have been 30, 32 years old.
Had you started a family yet?
Yeah. So first kid at 27. got married 2 months after I graduated PA school. My wife was the class ahead of me in PA school. So we both knew we wanted to have multiple kids, and just got started. And I always said I wanted to be young and healthy and not wait to have kids. So we had some trouble having some kids after our first kid, and ultimately through some assistance and time, we were able to have our last kid. I think my wife was 35 and I was 33 when we had our last kid. So we have 3 kids now.
When your kids were born, did your wife work outside of the home?
Yeah, so she's a PA as well. So she had worked full time and then worked sort of like 3/4 time eventually, and then back to full time again.
She's as big a badass as your sister Kim.
Oh yeah, yeah. If you met my wife, you'd be scared. You'd be scared not to work the best and hardest you would ever work. She is an absolute incredible human being.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for listening to Normal 40, the podcast. If you're here, it's probably not an algorithm or an accident. If you're here, it's probably you. And if you're here, I want to invite you to try something else. 2 years ago, I launched a community called The Insider. And when I created it, I thought it was going to be a coaching community where I could come in and teach. But what it's become over the last few months is something radically different. It's a place where we hang out, where we help one another, where we support one another, where people come in really skeptical that there's really a group of people like us doing things like this, and really skeptical if there's anything out there that can be helpful to them. And what they find after only a few calls is that we're really here, we really show up, there really are people in your corner, and that if you lean into it, it can change your life. I'm inviting you to be an insider. It might be the best decision of your lifetime. Go to normal40.com and you'll find The Insider, and I hope to see all of you on the inside. So you're 32, 33, you're climbing, going up and to the right, everything's going great. At what point do you decide, hey, I want a little bit more schooling and to go get your doctorate?
Yeah, I had always known that, and I was always I had always been called, Chris, you're so restless. You're so restless. And I've always have been. I just have never been satisfied with where I'm at, no matter where I'm at. And so I had been searching and searching. I had gotten some advanced credentialing, some leadership training. I had started the advanced ultrasound program in my facility. But then I just said, around like right before COVID, I was like, I don't know if I want to go get my MBA. I don't know if I want to get my master's in healthcare administration. Ultimately decided to get my doctorate degree. So it's a doctorate in medical science. It's not so much of a clinical degree as much as it's more of like an administrative degree, really focused on healthcare law, healthcare economics, leadership management, etc. So I went back to school. People thought I was crazy. I actually went to school full time simultaneously while I was working clinically. I don't know how I did it, but I did it. And so for about a year, I did a asynchronous education in a full-time program while working 312s. And my wife was incredibly supportive about me going back to school, but also while I was in school, she helped pick up the mess where I couldn't contribute. So that was in 2021 to 2022.
She sounds like an incredible partner.
She provides such solidarity to me and keeps me on the straight and narrow, because I'm sort of a dreamer, a believer, a guy who wants to put action to a lot of things, and she helps to keep me grounded and helps me give me perspective. And just because she works in medicine too, so she really just provides that balance.
Dude, what's your wife's name?
Stacy.
Stacy. Thank you. What has she enabled you to do?
She's always just supported me. Like, she's like, sometimes she'll tell me if I'm an idiot or not, or if I need to, settle or whatever it may be. But she, when I was struggling to try to find, so I went back to get my doctorate with the thoughts that, like, I just had always been dealing with this ceiling as a clinician, ceiling as what I was going to do. I just knew I wanted to do more, and I had lots of ideas about what that would look like, but was struggling between the balance of family life, paying the mortgage, paying the bills, and sort of achieving, and then geography, etc. Meanwhile, we were struggling with some kids with, some ADHD, and just, it was really, I needed to be present, and and then we had two family members who worked long, arduous hours, And we're just trying to figure out what that was going to look like. And so, she really, when I was struggling and sort of failing, to get into, I was thinking about getting into like the business side of medicine, healthcare technology, pharmaceuticals, and was ultimately failing in my pursuit. And just realized at the time I was doing medical legal consulting, and I was presented with an opportunity to be the president of PAs in legal medicine. And she just told me, just go for it. Like, this is your niche. Like, this is what you enjoy. And that decision has actually proven to be very, very helpful, as I've embraced it, since she told me that. And so I've been on this pursuit ever since. And I know you talk about agency in your podcast, and I've listened to your podcast extensively, and getting permission. Well, my wife gave me permission. She gave me permission. She's always given me permission to pursue my dreams, to pursue my aspirations, but she gave me permission to explore it more, and then give me the confidence that hey, I can make this my niche. And it sort of blossomed off from there, about sort of what I believe is the next step in my career.
Man, I'm so glad we're talking about this. I don't, I never know when we hit record where we're going to go. I had no idea. I had no idea your wife's name, and I had no idea the story. But I share the story, and permission. When I first started talking about getting permission from my wife, just the exact same way you talked about getting permission from Stacy for just doing this thing next, I people would kind of raise an eyebrow, like, what kind of controlling marriage did you have that you needed permission? And it's not, I know in your story, just in how you're telling it, that it's not big P permission. It's
Right.
not, it's not that. It's this moment when you realize that you can rethink, you have the ability now, you have the agency to rethink what you're going to do with the next chapter of your life, not as something you need to sell or justify with your partner inside the home. It's the moment when you realize that you have a teammate. You've got somebody who's in the boat rowing with you, and that they don't know where it's going either, but damn it, they're rowing. And not everybody gets that. Not everybody gets that. I talk to a lot of people and like, I don't have that in my marriage. I don't have a marriage. So it's when you have it, I mean, this is for you and I. We know it's pretty precious.
Right.
But for anybody listening who might be walking right past this, and they've got a marriage that's good but not great, and that they would make a move, but they don't want to disrupt the unwritten contract, the belief that they're supposed to go, climb, scratch, provide. And in that process, they're avoiding this conversation, the conversation you had, the conversation that Stacy was open to about maybe there's something else. Because you told me that you're restless, you're never satisfied, and that you were struggling. And she saw it. And then she sat up next to you and said, let's figure this out. That's precious and beautiful. Hats off to Stacy. But it wouldn't have happened, my guess is, if you hadn't. Well, let me ask you, I shouldn't say that. How did this conversation happen? This moment when permission presented itself. Tell me about that conversation. Was it just kind of in passing, you're having coffee, or was it a moment that you can really remember?
Um, it's definitely like for that decision for PAs in legal medicine was definitely a moment. Because I always like we have a great marriage from a communication standpoint. I discuss everything with her. Like, it's an open book. Like, I don't hide anything. Like, you know, she has, we've been together for such a long time, and she just provides that great perspective for me. And I just always seek her opinion, because I value it, and it makes me sit back and think about what I'm going to do, or what I'm saying, what I've done wrong. Like, I remember an argument we had this past Sunday, and she just she just provides that perspective, like, that I was, she accepted my apology when I was wrong. And like, and that to me is just tremendous value. Like, she got mad at me. Most men are going to provide some level of pride or whatnot, but like, to me, like, I don't ever have any qualms about apologizing or saying that I'm human, I made a mistake, and she accepts it back, and she accepts me with open arms and embraces, and realizes that we're all at faults, and we both had that same relationship together. So we both know that we've been, we're growing together, and we both accept that we're perfectly imperfect. But we're going to go at it together, and we've made that commitment together. So she's always been supportive of the decisions that I've made, and I've never made a decision without her permission. And that permission is because we're a team. We're raising this family together. We're both in medicine together. We're both feeling the anguish of what medicine does to us. So everything that we do, we talk out.
Well, my wife is probably going to listen to this and she's going to text me immediately and say, "Oh, you can take a lesson from Chris and how to apologize to your wife." So look, we might have to have a site. I might edit that part out just so that I don't get that awkward conversation from my wife. But offline, you can tell me how I can improve there, dude. I think it's fantastic. But I'm going to keep moving. Okay, so now you've got your doctorate. When we've talked one other time before this, and you've got something up there your sleeve that you're working on in the future, and we're going to get to that. But I also want to talk about this moment, kind of when you're at the top of your game. Now you got your PA, you got your doctorate, your kids are growing up, you're operating at optimal level for you, which I think is kind of my guess would be that that's kind of that's your standard operations is to be at this pretty elite level. But at some point, something changes, something starts to miss. And I want you to talk about just kind of the progression up until that point. When you get to this place and you start to wonder, is this what I'm supposed to, is this really the best work of my life?
Yeah, I mean, I when I started recruiting new board members for this organization that's not for profit, and just the magical work we've done together, and the transformation that I've done with this organization, and just the feedback that I get from inspiring others.
So this is too big a leap. Hold on, we got to go back. So take us back to before we get into the nonprofit.
Yeah.
Take us into how'd you get to this place where like I should start a nonprofit? We got to bridge that gap before we go there.
Yeah. So not for profit is a little bit different than what we're going to talk about later. It's the organization where I'm the president. But ultimately, it's just my experiences with being a leader of this organization, and just the feedback that I get from others and how much I enjoy that. Um, I enjoy piecing together such great talent, and stepping back and letting that talent, work together, and just being that sort of organizer of that talent, and bringing people together for a common good. And so that perspective has empowered me. And that's where I feel like I'm starting to blossom into the person I've always wanted to be, like this change agent, this person who's going to make a difference.
So the president of a not-for-profit, you, after graduating with your doctorate, you moved into this position, correct?
Yes.
And tell me about it. Tell me about what you do. Tell me about what the not-for-profit is.
Yeah. So, I'm involved in a couple of not-for-profits, but the one that I'm the president of is PAs in legal medicine. So, I took over as a medical professional legal consultant, and I put together a really great group of people, and I really changed the mission of the organization. What used to be just sort of a common ground for expert witnesses to come together, I've changed it because I wanted to make an impact on the PA profession, but healthcare as a whole. And so I changed the mission of the organization to really focus on, and not me, I don't want to say me, like my group of elite talent that I have we all work together to create this mission. And it's really just education, quality, safety. Medical errors are such a huge part of what happens to patients in medicine in America. And, I want to really change the narrative from malpractice lawsuits for all healthcare providers to how to avoid them, but also how to educate and work with others regarding that. And so I've gained so much knowledge from the field, and I wanted to really impact others with that. So that that process of going through this has just made such a great impact in my life, and has really empowered me to sort of move into the areas where I really want to make a difference.
So as president of this not-for-profit, what did you discover that you were really great at?
I believe that I'm really good at.
No, 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 really great at.
I believe that I'm really great at. I'm sorry, I'm modest. I really believe that I'm great at bringing together like-minded people for a common good, and then sort of putting sort of thoughts into action. I'm one of those people who struggled with going to meetings in the past, and administrative meetings, and oftentimes would struggle when I felt like people would just talk and talk endlessly, and we wouldn't put those thoughts into action. And I'm all about action, and I'm all about testing, how we go about things, and then sitting back and observing their impact. But I really enjoy having open, honest, respectful dialogue, and then sitting back and then really gaining others' perspectives and then making decisions based upon that, and putting those thoughts into action. So, and then with that in mind, when I see something that's not working, such as so many different areas of healthcare, that's where I've have such motivation and ambition to make a difference and make some change. So that's really where I've seen the impact of what I can do and what I believe I'm great at.
I um, so I've had more than 1,000 conversations, very similar to this. At least I asked that question, what are you great at? And in 99 out of 100 times, the person says, they repeat the question back to me exactly like you did. I'm pretty good at, and everybody kind of gets to this place where they even bring down their own in their own wording. And I love to point this out because I believe that you're great at this. And I believe if I asked 15 people around you, what are you great at? They'd say, Chris is really great at bringing people together. He's great at taking action. He's great. He's got great ambition. He's great and has great motivation. But when we put it out there for ourselves, like, well, I'm pretty good at that. I think I'm pretty good at that. And I think this isn't about you. It's about the listener. I want the people listening. If I were to be sitting next to you in your car or sitting across from you for coffee, and I said, "What are you great at?" I want you to know the answer, and I want you to repeat it back to me. Not what you're good at. I don't care what you're good at. I want you to know what you're great at because it's so powerful for where you're going to go next. And it's exactly where I want to take this conversation. You learn what you're great at, and you're great at bringing people together. You're great at seeing the bigger picture. You're great at taking action. And I want to know then, when did you kind of say, I want to do this other thing that you and I originally talked about? When you read the trade, you're like, I got to talk to this guy about this thing that I'm dreaming about, that you're dreaming about.
Right.
I want to talk about that next. And I want you to tell me about it from the standpoint of where you want to take it based on what you're great at.
Yeah. So this is something I've always dreamt of. I just didn't know how to put it into action. But it wasn't until this past early winter time that I was approached to serve on a panel at our national conference. And on this very topic about being an entrepreneur, which I have my own LLC with through my consulting work. But I was presented with on stage. I was a panelist on stage, and to present on entrepreneurship and making an impact as not only as just as a side hustle, but
entrepreneurship in medicine.
Entrepreneurship as a medical legal consultant and education consultant.
Got it.
And so I was chosen because of these great attributes that I guess I have. And
yes, you do.
And so I was chosen to participate in this, and just the more and more dialogue that happened leading up to the event. And then the event to me was one of the most powerful 2 hours of my life, where I spoke at the conference, and just the amount of tears in the room that were happening simultaneously as myself and the other panelists were talking, and the quality of the questions. And I just saw the anguish in people's faces. I saw the struggles that everybody was facing. And after I sat for an hour after the conference, just answering questions for people.
Okay, hold on. This is beautiful. Who was the audience?
So the audience was our national, so the AAPA conference in Denver this past May. And the audience was filled with PAs, but it was proctored by an attorney for a medical malpractice company. And there were essentially just PAs in the room. And PAs always have a chip on their shoulder. I've always had a chip on the shoulder because of we've always felt like we've been slighted in medicine, that we're not invited to the table. We're not considered, the team leaders or the main medical decision makers. And that's not always the case. And I've always been fighting for that for PAs. And so I think that chip that I've had, since I'm a PA, or just a chip I've had my whole life, at least I think that I have that chip. That's what I try to tell my kids. Always have that chip in your shoulder. That's what motivate you. But I saw that, I was filled with a room of people who have that chip on their shoulder, who feel that anguish. And I saw my impact. I saw that what I was doing, or what I had inspired to do, that my wife gave me permission to do, that I've been working so hard, specifically since my doctorate, to sort of really evolve my consulting work. I saw what that impact could look like. And it wasn't just what I was doing, it was what I was talking about, how people would go about it and what it could do for them. So that's where this idea that I've had really started to blossom.
Hey everyone, thank you once again for listening to Normal 40 the podcast. Look, there's a reason why this podcast is going to get downloaded thousands of times. And there's a reason why thousands of people show up to what I write and what we share. And there's a reason why hundreds of you join me on The Insider. The Insider is a community that I thought was going to be a place for me to show up and teach and coach. But what it's become is a fan base for people who are ready to get started. It's a place to connect to the people you're going to need for the best decade of your life. And it's the most affordable community, most valued community that I can offer. And I show up in there at least twice a month. And we do live events and have special guests. And I even record podcasts in there from time to time. So look, go to normal40.com, join the Insider, check it out for yourself, and do yourself a favor. Let's be up to something. All right, I'm going to get back to the podcast. Okay, so in 2025, you were on a stage presenting to 100-ish PAs who were you in 2021.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So you knew their emotions, you knew what they were feeling, you knew they had a chip on their shoulder, you knew the hardships that they were going through in medicine, you knew the problems they were facing, you knew how they were feeling, you knew what they were wanting but couldn't get, and you could relate to what they're going through, and you were able to connect with them. What connected with them? What was it? What was the essence of your message that resonated with them, that would bring grown professionals who are pretty hardened by emotion? If you're a PA or a doctor, guess what? Your emotions are pretty buffered. They're pretty rounded out. So if you're bringing them to tears, what was the essence of your message?
I said, I'm you. Like, I feel what you felt. I'm you. Like, and I've struggled for so long. And I gave this message, and I said, you need to sit here and think about where's the value in your life? Like, what do you perceive as the greatest value? And then work yourself away from that. And I said, my value is to be more present for my family. My value is to stop missing out on my kids' lives. My value is to be the best father, best husband I can ever be. Because that's what I value. And then you need to work your way out from that and say, how do I get to that? And then, that resonated with people. And I said, if you're struggling professionally, with wellness, which I think a lot of us in medicine are, I said, you need to just say to yourself, where can I get a better balance? Where can I achieve this? And it's tough. It's tough because you don't always know how to go about that. And, financially, it can be very difficult. Specifically, it all depends on where you live in the country. And PAs aren't, breaking the bank with our salaries, et cetera. And so that resonated with people, and it brought people to tears, and it brought people with incredible excitement. And I basically told them, like, what is like your entry? What is your entry point into what you wanted to do? What you believe will get you there? And I sort of introduced them to that. And it didn't seem to be as bewildering to them as they originally thought it would be. So that to me was just incredibly enlightening.
I boil people's journeys down to four different places: a lantern, a guide, a guard, and a key. In that moment, you were a lantern. They were in the 24 hours before they saw you, they were worried about patients, patient count, patient care, checking the boxes, getting everything done, getting everything right, meeting their criteria set out by them, by administration. That was their path. It's like, I got to do that. And then you became a lantern. You started waving this light. Hey, look, there is something else. There's something. And they could see it, and they slowed down. You had their attention. They slowed down. And in that moment, you could be a guide. You could be a guide for what is possible. And you could be a guard against future regret, a guard against never trying, a guard against not knowing if they'll ever muster the courage to do it. And in that moment, for them, it gave them hope. And for you, it gave you clarity on what you are really here to do next. And I want you to tell us, what's this dream? What's this thing you're working on now that you want to bring to life? It's the mission of it, at the very least, the next chapter of your life.
Yeah. So we all know healthcare is broken, and we all know that we in medicine, I've been doing this for over 22 years. I don't care where you are in medicine or what your role is. We all know healthcare is broken. It's broken for the patient. It's broken for the providers. And so, and that this enlightening, this moment, I thought, well, I've been going about this all wrong. I've always wanted to, change healthcare one patient at a time. But that to me, that's not where I need to go with my career, because that's not where I'm best served. I'm best served with providing that impact, and providing that message, and providing that courage, the agency to make that decision. And I want to bring together very like-minded people who have this desire to do something more, and that is have a conference and have a community, where we can talk to one another, encourage one another, teach one another, provide avenues for that to happen, and bring together whatever thought they was. Say they want to open their own, behavioral health virtual clinic or telemedicine clinic, or they want to open a brick and mortar clinic, or they have a healthcare product that would make medicine better. I want to encourage people to disrupt what the current healthcare system is, where it is now, and then move towards seeing that idea that they have, that passion that they have, that niche that they want to be in, and bring it to fruition, whatever business that is. And that will provide a level of wellness for them. That will provide a level of motivation for them. And so I would love to bring together like-minded people in an environment community like that, to make that happen. And so by changing the way we can change healthcare is to change the delivery of that healthcare. And the people on the front lines know how to do that. We're just held down too much. And so I would love to sort of make a difference in this regard. Like, I really believe that there's a space for this. That there are people who are thriving to do this. And that's where I believe that my legacy is. That's where I believe I can have the greatest impact.
In 3 years, let's fast forward 3 years, the event goes off and you do another one and another one because it's successful. In one sentence, summarize for me what the definition of success would be, not just for this event, but your impact, the impact of what you're trying to build. What is it?
I would say that I would like to change healthcare delivery for the better, for all, different than what it looks like now. I would say to bring back providers the reason why they went into healthcare, to bring back that excitement, to bring back that motivation, to bring back that real true ambition they had when they decided to go to school, to bring that more to the surface again, and for patients to see that again, and to break down all these barriers that are leading to the poor healthcare system that we have.
To bring people back to where they used to be going, to feel like they used to feel, taking care of the people they love to take care of, man. I love it. Look, dude, I want to be as supportive as I can to you. And as this continues to evolve and grow and you're ready for more and more support, I want to stay in touch, and I want to offer whatever I have to bring to bear to you in this, in your dream, because it mirrors so much of what I'm trying to do in my dream, which is just to heal the broken souls of people who have given their whole life to something and they can't quite enjoy it the way they want to or deserve to. And there is a process to go through to get there. And I think you're marching towards that, and so am I. And so if there's anything that we can do together, man, I want to be part of it. But man, I want to recap who you are for the audience. And this is just what we've discovered here. We talked about knowing at age 11 that you wanted to be a medic because of a hardship of Kim that somebody in your family is going through, and believing that maybe, just maybe, you had something to offer, that maybe, just maybe, you could intersect Kim's life or people like Kim to give them something to shoot for. And that's what launched this. Then in football, through an injury, you decide that the best way to stay on a team, which is the thing that you talked about, what you missed most is the team. The best way to stay on the team, but not directly on the field, is to help people stay on the field.
Right.
That was your biggest and best contribution, and you were fulfilled by that. And I think, and you're using your words, you were restless, never satisfied, struggling with a ceiling. So you went and got a degree in medical science, and you're great at bringing people together, taking action, and using your ambition. Man, I think this mission you're on to help people get back to where it is they used to be going, and to heal the ripped open souls of the goodness that they just want to be able to offer without feeling that they're being judged and that they can't do it their way because there's another way that's been documented. I think it's beautiful. I think it's pure. And I think you're going to have incredible success because it's right in line with who you are. I want to say one more thing, and this is really important. I wrote down 4 words before we started. That's it. I came into this. I said, here's what I want to talk about. Community. Well, you talked about community, your team. You talked about the football team and being a medic and helping them. Conversation. We talked about your conversation with Stacy and this conversation you have again and again, but also the conversation you have with your team. Courage, the courage to change, the courage to pivot, the courage to listen to your gut when it comes calling. And mission, and your mission is the thing you're about to strap yourself onto. And then the last thing I wrote down was being human. And at the end of the day, we all just want to feel like we get to be human. As humans, helping humans from our gifts, through our gifts, offering them. And dude, I think you hit on every one of these without me even having to prompt them, just the beauty of your story. And I want to be as supportive to you and your mission and where you're going as I possibly can be.
You've already created such energy for me with your book. I mean, your book really just, as I said before, your book just spoke to me. Your podcasts speak to me, because it's everybody, just like you said, it's everybody who's sort of speaks to people who are struggling, with those ambitions, with those goals. And so you're already doing it. You're already doing it. And I just love this conversation and how many people you're helping in your community. I absolutely want to be part of it because I want to surround myself with like-minded people, to have great dialogues with, because it only makes you better. I'm a big runner and I've run countless marathons, and I always tell people it's not about running the marathon. It's about the journey that I have with my running teammates, and how they make me a better husband, a better father, a better clinician. But it's about having dialogues. It's about, listening to other people's perspectives, because I think we're missing a lot of that in this country.
Back to community, conversation, courage, and being human. That's a perfect bow. Do you have a date for your event, or is this still in process?
Still in process.
All right, baby. Well, you let me know when it's up and running, because I wanna promote it hard.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today.
Yeah, thanks for being on the podcast, man. I'm going to see you on the next page.
You got it. Thank you so much.